What's good, you guys? Bricks here, back with another video. This is probably my most requested video. Everybody's asking me, how can I make my mix sound better with my beats? How do I make them slap? What should I do? Give us some gems, Bricks. All right, man, I got you guys. I'm going to speed run through some ways that you guys can make your beats better. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer. If you don't know who I am, my name is Bricks. I'm a music producer. I produce for the biggest artists in the world: Drake, Gunna, Lil Wayne, Young Thug, Lil Baby. Let's get straight into it. So these mixing tips are not going to be in order of importance, but they are all equally important, okay? I guess in order for me to tell you how to make your mix better, you have to understand what you're mixing. You're mixing sounds. So before we get into mixing, let's talk about just straight sounds, because you have to have sounds in order to mix. So this is the rule of thumb for me. You can take bad sounds and make them sound okay with mix. You can take okay sounds and make them sound good. You can take good sounds, make them sound great. But if you start out with great sounds, it's going to sound amazing after you do a little bit of mix, or you might not even need a mix. So if you think your mix is bad, you might need to take a step back, because it might be that you're using bad sounds. A great mix starts with great sounds. You guys already know where to get all my drum kits, MIDI kits, multi-kits, plugin presets. Link is in the description. Join the VIP community. You're going to get all of that. So that's going to go ahead and knock that part out. You're getting sounds that I use to get placements, that my students use to get placements and plaques. So here's the second tip. A lot of you guys are just sitting making beats in your bedroom, and nothing is wrong with that. But mixing in your bedroom could be a huge problem. Why? Because the only person that's going to hear those beats in your bedroom is probably you and your mom. Okay? When you're trying to work with artists and get in the studios and start selling your beats, you need to make sure that your beats sound good everywhere. That's kind of the entire point of mixing. Well, Bricks, how do I do that? Well, first of all, you guys need a point of reference, because you're mixing and changing the way your beat sounds in your bedroom based on what you think sounds good instead of the industry standard. If you want your beats to sound industry quality, you need an industry standard reference. Bricks, how do I get that? All you have to do is go to Spotify, type in Future Instrumental, type in Drake instrumental, type in this instrumental, and they have the entire album. They have Future's entire album, instrumental, mixed and mastered. They have Drake's entire album, mixed and mastered, the instrumental version, on Spotify. All you have to do is download these albums, upload them into your DAW, and when you play those beats, now you know what you should be aiming for sonically as far as mixing is concerned, because these beats are mixed and mastered by some of the best engineers in the world to sound good in every environment. They're going to sound good on AirPods, iPhone, in the car, in the stadium, in an arena, in the club. So now you know this is what you need to be aiming for sonically. So what I would do is I would do an A and B reference with your mix and with their mix. I would listen to where the hi-hats are hitting at sonically. I would listen to where the clap is hitting at, where the 808s are hitting at, where the snares are hitting at, where the open hi-hats are hitting at, where the piano's hitting at, where the strings hitting at. And I would play that, stop it, play my beat, tweak it a little bit, stop it. Play the other beat, listen to where it is, play my beat, tweak my shit a little bit. Okay? That's how you know you're going to get a cohesive sound and your beats are going to sound good everywhere. Now, if you're like me and you use a lot of the same drums in a lot of your beats, you should just do that, save it as a template, so that the next time that you load up your DAW to make a beat, it already sounds mixed and mastered. And now you're going to start subconsciously already knowing where your sound should be hitting at in your particular environment. So that's a huge, huge, huge tip. So number one is going to be start with great sounds already. Number two is going to be have some kind of reference aiming point, so that you know where your stuff is supposed to be hitting in the sonic spectrum. Now, let's get into the next tip, guys. First of all, if you guys haven't joined the free community, click the link down in the description. So the next mixing thing, and like I said, these are not in order of importance. These just as it's coming to my head. I see a lot of guys doing a lot of unnecessary panning. I'm noticing that most engineers are putting the 808s directly in the center. When you start up your DAW and you pull up the 808, you pull up a snare, you pull up a hi-hat, you'll notice that it's in stereo for one, and the pans, what are they called? Pan handles, pan wheels? The pan knob is all the way like this, right? 100% to the left, 100% to the right. It will sound better if you put them directly straight up 50-50, so that the 808 snare and hi-hat mostly is hitting right in the center of the mix. Your 808s don't need to be hitting over here. Your snare don't need to be hitting over here. Your snare need to be hitting right here. Your 808s need to be hitting right here. Your hi-hats can go a little to the left or a little to the right. They don't need to be all the way out here. They don't need to be moving around your head. That is a super pet peeve of mine. When I hear somebody beat and the hi-hat's like, I'm like, dog, you have no idea what you're doing. You just touching knobs because you can, bro. I would be putting my 808s right up the center. Now, while I'm on the topic of talking about 808s and snares, in the mix, your 808 and snare should be the loudest things in the beat, and they should be borderline equal. Like nothing in the beat should be louder than the 808 and the snare. If you're listening to your beat and you got bells and piano and strings and they're louder than the 808 and the snare, you're making a mistake, in my opinion, my professional opinion. As soon as I hear something like that and one of my students will play a beat like that, I'll be like, why is your freaking flute louder than your snare? Why is your freaking flute louder than your 808? You need to fix that. That's a gain staging issue. Make sure that your sounds are in the correct position in the sonic spectrum, and it's going to sound better. Gain staging wise. Bricks, what's gain staging? Gain is turning things up. Attenuation is turning things down, but that's a different lesson. Let's get into the next thing. So the next thing I would say is if you want your beats to sound better, you got to stop overcrowding frequency ranges, especially if you're not great at mixing already. Like I wouldn't have 3 different sounds in the freaking high, 3 different sounds in the mid range, and 3 different sounds in the lower range. Like you don't need to be putting that many sounds in the beat. First of all, you can, but I'm just saying you might want to know what you're doing because things can get very muddy very fast. Rule of thumb is, especially if you're a newer producer and you don't have placements and you're not mixing and stuff like that yet, I would not be putting an 808 and a bass guitar in the same section. You can have one section with bass guitar, one section with 808, but things in the low end tend to get very, very muddy when you try to do that and you're not super experienced. That can take practice. I would avoid doing that. Same as having a lot of different things going on in the high frequency. A lot of you guys making like rage beats, Playboy Cardi, Yeet sounding beats, and there's a lot of synths going at the same time. It can just be just sharp in somebody's ear and just sound bad because you don't know how to layer them properly. You might not need all of those going at one time. Maybe you can have some of them going here and some of them going in a different part of the beat, but that kind of comes to an arrangement as well. I might have to do another video on arrangement. If you guys want me to do another video on arrangement, drop it in the comments. And if it gets a lot of comments, I'll do that. Yeah, so you don't want to have what's called a cluttered mix. You don't want to have too many things because what you guys got to realize is the beat is supposed to be open because the artist's voice is the main instrument. So as you're mixing, yes, to make your beats hit, yes, to make them sound better, but you're mixing to leave space for the artist's voice. So if I was you guys, I would be dipping out even maybe like 2000, like on the frequency range, on the EQ. I would be dipping out some 2000 on the master damn near just to give extra space for the vocal to sit, especially if you are doing a lot of things in that range that could conflict with that main vocal. You don't want to have that. So if you want your stuff to sound cleaner, because this is the thing, a lot of you guys are making beats, but for my producers that are taking this series that are making real songs and trying to get placements and do songs, you want to have like, think like this. Let's say you're doing a song with an artist and the song is good. Everybody likes the song, but it's just so many things going that's fighting the vocal in the frequency range. And the artist is not going to be able to articulate that to you. You're supposed to know that there's too much shit going on in this range. You need to either take something out or dip it out so that the artist's voice can sit right in the center of the track. So to piggyback off that last thing, the next problem I see a lot of producers making with their mixing is overprocessing. Why do you have 30 different plugins on the master? Why do you have 30 different, like when you start out with bad sounds, you're trying to compensate by putting 15 sound goodizers and a whole bunch of different EQs on a bunch of different sounds. You just need to start with great sounds, bro. You don't need to be wasting your time trying to fix things that are just not going to sound good no matter what plugins you put on them, bro. Like I said, click in the description if you want your shit to sound industry quality immediately. Just download my sounds. So over processing is a huge problem in the producer community, especially if you guys don't know what you're doing. Now, to be completely honest, if you're a music producer, it's technically not your job to be mixing in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Mixing your beats will just give you an edge when we get in a studio situation and like I'm playing my beats, this guy playing his beats, and then you play your beats. You don't want our beats to be way louder and hitting way harder than yours. So it's technically the beat, your beat can sound like trash. You can get a song cut on it, and the label's like, okay, we want to use this on the album, and you'll send out your stems from your DAW to the label engineer, and the engineer at the label will make it sound great. You know what I'm saying? That's technically the process. But to give yourself a competitive advantage in the field, in the studio, in production, you want your beats to sound as good as they possibly can before we even get to that point. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we want to choose great sounds. That's why we want to make sure the mix sounds decent. Make sure we want to use our references so that we know what our mix is supposed to sound like, so we're not just guessing. We want to listen to our beats in the headphones. We want to listen to our beats on the car. We want to listen to our beats on the phone speaker to make sure that it's hitting on everything. Because for one thing, if like you're selling beats online, you don't know where these people are listening to your beats at. You don't know if they're in headphones, because thousands of people could be going to your website, hundreds of people could be going to your website listening to your beats. You don't know where they're listening from, first of all. So to increase your chances of making a sale, what you want to do is make sure that your beats sound good everywhere. And that can be achieved by great sound reference mixing and making sure your stuff is not cluttered, not over processing. Like if you ask me, Grizz, any of my homies, we don't put anything on the master, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no reason. We don't use soft clippers. We don't use mastering effects. I don't use ozone. I don't put anything on the master, bro. Like the only thing I would do on the master maybe is turn it down just a little bit so that my shit is not all the way in the red and it's just like in the orange. You know what I'm saying? And my shit be hitting harder than all these niggas that's using 13 soft clippers and this, and that. You know what I'm saying? It starts with great sounds. That's really the secret. All right. So the next thing you guys can work on is making sure there's not too much low end. What do you mean by that, Breaks? Well, obviously, if you're watching this, well, not obvious, but maybe you're making trap, maybe you're making R&B, but this is kind of in all genres, especially if you're using 808s. The low end can get muddy very fast. If you're using synths and an 808, if you're using bass guitar and an 808, if you're using bass guitar and synths, if you're using a low piano and 808, everything can get muddy very fast. And you can pretty much do this on every beat that you do. If you can route all of the sounds to one track and just cut out everything under 200 hertz, and that will just give the 808 all the space that it needs to do what it needs to do in the beat. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to fighting with these other frequencies that don't really need to be there anyway. I would just put on a high pass filter over all of the sounds except the 808 and just let the 808 have its own range, have its own freedom to do what it wants to do, and it will sound a lot better. It's going to sound a lot cleaner, guys, especially if you start with a great 808 like the one from my kit. Now, let's get into the next tip. Now, some of you guys, your drums are not hitting, your snares are not hitting, your hi-hats are not hitting, and here's going to be the tip to make your drums hit. I have a whole video on this as well, but it's in my community, like I said. You guys need to get very familiar with the boost knob. Now, unfortunately, my Ableton people, my Logic people, you guys don't have access to this life-changing miracle. The boost knob on FL is one of the best. It's the best effect that you can put on drums, period. It's the best effect that will make your drums hit. If you don't know how to use the boost knob, either A, you guys can ask in the comments, or you guys can go check it out in my community. I have a whole video on this. But this is what's going to separate the men from the boys. If you have access to that boost knob, I boost the hi-hats, I boost snares, I boost 808s, I boost samples, I boost, like, man, that shit is a treasure. If you're not doing that, you're sleeping. Now, the next thing I see a lot of producers doing wrong when it comes to their mixing is mixing their stuff too loud. Now, I'm not saying don't make the beat loud. I'm saying when you're mixing, you need to be listening to it in a low, like, turn your speakers down and listen to it in a low flat stage. Don't blast it and be trying to mix while the music just blasting, because you're not going to have an accurate description of what you're really listening to if it's just blasting. You know what I'm saying? Turn it down, make it sound great, then turn it back up at the end. Now, if you guys want me to do a part 2 of this video and you guys got a lot of value, obviously like, comment, and subscribe, and drop me a comment down in the comment section if you guys want me to do a part 2. Hopefully you guys can use these tips and tricks that I showed you today and be able to take your beats to the next level. Let me know how it goes. If you do these tips, your beats are going to sound better. I'll throw a bonus tip in there for you. This is what I actually did when I got started, and it really changed my beats forever. You can pay an engineer to mix your beats in your DAW or in Pro Tools. I mean, obviously Pro Tools, but if you can pay an engineer, a real legit engineer, like $100 or $50 or something, to mix your beat, you can A, watch them and learn, but B, once you get your sounds mixed, now the next time you make a beat, if you're using those same sounds or similar sounds, your stuff already gonna sound industry quality. That's probably one of the best investments that I made, is having a legit engineer just mix my beat. So now I know exactly what I'm shooting for. And if he can do it in your DAW, that's even better, because all of the plugins and everything that he's using is going to be right there, already set up for exactly what you're trying to do. So that's the bonus tip, you guys. Now listen, if you guys want to take everything to the next level, like I said, join the VIP community where I'm going to give you guys access to all my drum kits, multi-kits, MIDI kits, melody kits. We do classes, every type of class that you need to win as a producer. Networking as a producer, branding as a producer, marketing as a producer. You're going to get access to all of the recordings that we already, like, bro, we do Zoom calls basically every week with super producers. And if you missed a few of them, you can go watch the recordings that are only available in the VIP. And if you want to get into the next one, just click the link and I'll see you guys there. Cheers.
So I want to share a quick story, explain with you who I am and what I do. My name is Bricksdamane. I'm a music producer from Atlanta, Georgia, and I don't work with the biggest artists in the world: Drake, Gunna, Lil Wayne, Young Thug, Lil Baby, you name it, 21 Savage. I don't work with them. And not only was I able to do that, I just spent the last 3 years helping hundreds of producers just like you start from absolutely nothing and start selling their beats, getting their first sales, getting their first placements, getting their first plaques, even some people getting record deals, bro. You need to surround yourself with people that have accomplished the things that you want to do in your life if you want to win. And that's why I created the Producer Pathway. What is that? The Producer Pathway is the #1 community for producers where we're growing, learning, connecting, and simplifying the process of producing. You're going to get access to 5 hours of course videos taught by me. You're also going to get all of my kits, all of my loops, all of my MIDI packs, every single thing that I have to offer. You're going to get. Also, I'm going to give you a copy of my newest book, Brick by Brick, where I started from absolutely nothing and told the story about sleeping in my car to working with Drake and working with the biggest artists in the world, how you can do the same thing. You're also going to get access to the Bricks Academy Lite, which is a super light version of my 6-week-long program where producers learn how to sell their beats, get placements, start networking, and start getting progress. You need to be around people that build you up instead of break you down, and that's why we do weekly Zoom calls with the industry's top producers so you can connect with them one-on-one and start networking. Bro, for everybody that's on this video right now, I'm going to do something so special. I'm going to offer all of this stuff at a price that is truly ridiculous. If you're a music producer or a beat maker, this community is for you. Lock in right now and become a founding member before the price goes up, guys. You're going to be getting weekly calls, kits, MIDIs, plug-in presets, melodies, copy of my book, a copy of my course, a copy of my... Actually, I just did a viral content creation guide. I also put that in there. It's a whole bunch of awesome stuff, guys. The time to act is now. Join the community. Just remember, sometimes it's the smallest decisions that could change your life forever. Get around people that are winning, that can show you that everything that you need to know to take your career to the next level. This could change everything for you guys. Click the link, join the community, and I'll see you guys there.